Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be taking a look at brand new polling from the New York Times and Siena College that suggests that the election is basically over and Donald Trump is on track to win this election basically with a 100% chance. And is Joe Biden DOA? Is he dead on arrival at this point in time? We're going to find out in this video. But before we get started, make sure you guys are subscribed and click the bell so you don't miss out on any of my content. Also, we have memberships, so you can find a link to that in the description section. Now back to the topic of today's video. So Siena College and the New York Times released 6 polls from 6 key swing states in which Donald Trump is leading in 5 of them and Biden only has a lead in 1 of them. And the one state that Biden is leading, they underestimated Trump back in 2020 by 6 points. And Biden is up in that state by 2 points. It happens to be the Rust Belt state of Wisconsin, in which Trump won in 2016 and Biden won in 2020 by 0.6%. That's how close it was, a margin of 20,000 votes. And keep in mind that Wisconsin in 2020 underestimated the former president by 6 points, and you find that Biden is up by 2%. So if you were to apply that polling error, Donald Trump already wins Wisconsin by 5 percentage points. But obviously that's not how elections really work. The polling error doesn't typically decide the outcome of the next election. But, if you were to apply that polling error, Trump does win Wisconsin at the end of the day. And then in states like Pennsylvania, another Rust Belt state, you find that Trump has a 3-point lead in Biden's home state. He grew up in Pennsylvania, and you can find that he's down by 3 points. So if you may say that, Biden's going to win Pennsylvania in 2024 because he has connections to that state and voters can connect with him. Well, if you think that's the case, according to these new polls, that may not be the case, and Donald Trump is leading in Pennsylvania on average, and according to the latest polls. And keep in mind, Siena College is a highly rated pollster on 538. They have, I believe, an A+ polling grade rating, and they are very accurate when it comes to the 2022 midterms and also the 2020 election. Siena College was extremely accurate. And then as for Arizona, very important, crucial to a Trump victory in this election cycle, you can find that Trump is up in this state by 7%. And Biden had won it back in 2020 by 11,000 votes of 0.4%. If you were to apply this to the actual map, we're going to be filling out some of these swing states. You can see that Trump already passes 270 electoral votes. Trump's floor is already at 235 in his worst case scenario. And Biden's floor is at 226. So considering that the former president's floor is higher than the incumbent president's floor is not good news for Joe Biden. If the incumbent president's floor is lower than, his challenger, that is not good news for the Biden campaign. And as for Michigan, you can find that Trump is also leading by 7 percentage points. And keep in mind, they underestimated Trump by 2 points back in 2020. So if you were to apply that polling error, Trump wins Michigan by 9%. Obviously, that's not how elections work. I mentioned that earlier. So if that were the case, Trump would be winning Michigan by a likely margin, in which I don't think that's going to happen. And then as for Georgia, Trump is up by a staggering 10 points. So he is cracking double digits. And like I mentioned earlier, this is a highly rated pollster, very accurate. So if this is the real numbers on election day, then that is not good news for Joe Biden. Keep in mind that Georgia swung 6 points to the left back in 2020, and Biden won the state by 10,000 votes, a margin of 0.3%. It was extremely close, and Biden won Georgia for the first time for any Democrat since Bill Clinton, I believe. And main reason it flipped was because he got high turnout among African American voters, among minorities in the Atlanta suburbs, metropolitan area, and Savannah, and basically that helped Biden win this state. But according to the majority of polls, Trump is more than likely going to flip Georgia in 2024. It's going to be one of the more easier flips for the former president. And then as for Nevada, this one is actually pretty interesting because it actually overestimates Donald Trump and it underestimates Joe Biden, which is not really what you see in any other swing state. So Nevada actually typically overestimates Republicans in the 2022 midterms, for example. And so let's say the state is overestimating Trump by 2 points, then he's going to end up winning it by 10 points. And keep in mind that Trump is winning in Nevada by 13% according to this poll. And that is not good news for Joe Biden. And so when we fill out some of these swing states, you can find that Trump is winning Nevada by double digits, a safe margin. It won't even be close. which in my opinion, do I really believe that's the case? No, I think something more like 1 or maybe 2% for Donald Trump is more accurate than something like 13%. I think that's just absurd. And if that is the real numbers on election day, then Trump may very well pass 350 electoral votes. Not just 300, but 350 if he really does win Nevada by 13 points, which in my opinion, that's not going to happen. And then as for Arizona, Trump is going to win this by a likely margin of 7 points, according to Siena College polling data. Very highly rated pollsters on 538, like I just mentioned. They were very accurate back in 2022 and 2020. And Trump is also winning Georgia by 10 points, a safe margin, pretty comfortably for the former president. And for some of these Rust Belt states, Biden is actually winning Wisconsin by a lean margin, a couple points of 2%. In which, keep in mind that this state underestimated Trump's support by 6% back in 2020. So if you apply that polling year, Trump wins Wisconsin by a lean margin. And then as for Michigan, 100,000 people voted uncommitted in the Democratic primaries. So things can get very interesting in here. Donald Trump is up by a lean margin in this state. Or actually, he's up by a likely margin. He's winning this by 7%. Biden has only roughly 42% to Donald Trump's 49%. So Michigan's likely for Trump, which, if this were the real numbers on election day, then this is not good news for Joe Biden. And basically, it's going to be a landslide for Donald Trump. And I don't necessarily believe these numbers. I truly believe that Donald Trump is being overestimated and Biden is slightly being underestimated, but that's just my opinion. Let me know in the comment section, do you agree with me that Trump is being overestimated in some of these polls? Like, come on, guys. Arizona, Trump's up by 7. I think that's just too much of a margin. Michigan, Trump's up by 7. That's even worse. Nevada, he's up by 13. I don't believe that. Like, it's just not believable. I think something like 3% in Pennsylvania is still too much for Donald Trump, but it's slightly more accurate than something like 13%. And then even in Georgia, Trump's up by 10. I still think that's too much for the former president. Even in Wisconsin, actually, is underestimating Trump's support, in my opinion. So, in my opinion, a lot of these polls are actually off. But if these polls were to be right, because these are highly rated pollsters, I mean, they're trustworthy enough. So, if we were to trust them, Trump has a 3-point lead in Pennsylvania, which is going to be a lean margin at the end of the day. So, according to these polls, Donald Trump wins with 302 electoral votes to Joe Biden's 236. And now, this is where things get confusing. And I don't believe this because Wisconsin is voting to the left of Pennsylvania and Michigan. That never happens, which is why, in my opinion, this is not accurate with these polls. Now, Trump may be leading in Pennsylvania. That may be a fact. He may be leading in Arizona. He may be leading in Nevada. But those margins are too much for Donald Trump. Like, he could be winning in Nevada, truly, but it's not going to be by 13 points. So, yes, meanwhile, they get the victor right, they still get the margins way, way off. If Wisconsin goes to Biden, then basically Michigan and Pennsylvania will do that as well. I mean, you don't typically see the Rust Belt states, breaking apart and splitting their vote. For example, if Wisconsin votes for Trump, Michigan and Pennsylvania would do that as well. But when they break away, Wisconsin would vote to Trump, but Michigan and Pennsylvania will vote to Biden. Like, you don't typically see that. For example, back in 2020, these 3 Rust Belt states voted for Biden. Back in 2016, all of them voted for Trump. Back in 2012, all of them voted for Obama. You don't typically see them split. And basically, Biden's path to victory, his easiest path, is probably through the 3 most important Rust Belt states. Because take a look at this. If Biden holds on to Michigan narrowly in 2024, he's at 251 electoral votes. If he holds on to Pennsylvania, obviously his home state, he wins with 270 electoral votes to Donald Trump's 268, making it the closest election ever in modern U.S. history. And this is Biden's easiest path to 270 electoral votes. So if you're asking me, is there a possible path for Joe Biden to win re-election? I would tell you there is, and it's through the 3 most important Rust Belt states, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. In my opinion, Pennsylvania is the bluest of them all, and then Wisconsin is probably the reddest of these 3 Rust Belt states. So, obviously, Trump is winning in 2 of the 3, according to these polls, which would basically give him the presidency. Trump is winning Michigan by a likely margin in these polls. Trump's winning Pennsylvania by a lean margin. But then you have this one outlier, and Wisconsin is lean for Biden. I just don't believe that. In my opinion, I think Wisconsin would go to Trump. I think Michigan would go to Trump. But I think there is a chance that even if those two states go to Trump, Wisconsin and Michigan, I still think that Biden can very well win Pennsylvania because obviously he has connections there. And in my opinion, I just think Pennsylvania is one of the more bluer Rust Belt states of them all. So if this was my map, I would tell you Wisconsin would go to Trump by a lead margin. Michigan would narrowly go to Trump by a tilt margin, and Biden would narrowly win Pennsylvania by under a percentage point by a tilt margin in 2024. So in my opinion, Trump wins with 293 electoral votes to Joe Biden's 245. But according to these polls, brand new, released, Biden's going to win Wisconsin, but Trump wins Michigan and Pennsylvania in a weird fashion. You typically do not see this. So this election is going to be very important when it comes down to fundraising numbers, ad spending, and basically whoever spends the most money wins nowadays elections. And you may make that case, but in 2016, Trump was outspent to Hillary Clinton, I believe 3-1, and he still won the election. I mean, she raised 66% more in terms of dollars than Trump did, and she still lost the election. You can make the case that she lost because she didn't visit those 3 Rust Belt states in the week before prior to the election. You may say that. But still, in the 2020 election, Biden outspent Trump, and it was way closer than what the polls said. And also, voter registration is very important. For example, in Nevada, Republicans have gained in terms of new registered voters, roughly 50,000 of them, which is going to help. And if Trump is able to flip Reno County or Washoe, that region, I think he's on track to win this state. And if Biden does not get a high enough turnout in Clark County, this state is on track to flip to Trump in 2024. And he's up in Nevada by 13 points, which I don't believe that. But it's going to be way closer, but he's still up in that state. As for Arizona, it's a little bit of a left trendy state, but still, considering the border crisis and polling suggests that Trump is going to win this state. And then as for Georgia, it swung 6 points to the left back in 2020. Trump is on track to win this state. Latest poll has him up by 10. Not good news for Joe Biden. Trump is going to do way better among African-American voters, way better among minorities. And if that's the case, Trump is more than likely on track to win Georgia in 2024. In Pennsylvania as well, roughly 200,000. They've gained in terms of registration. You can just find these numbers, look them up yourselves. It is a fact. And then even in places like Florida, Republicans have gained 888,000 new voters on their side. And even Hispanics are shifting more towards the right. Even Cuban Americans in Florida and Miami-Dade County went to DeSantis in 2022, the midterms. Meanwhile, went to Biden back in 2020. So you can see the shifts in the trends go in favor of the GOP in the state of Florida. And even in Texas, you have a border crisis. Trump may very well be on track to win the state by 9 or even 10 points if he's lucky enough. And even in Iowa, Republicans have gained significantly in terms of registration. This state has basically abandoned the Democratic Party. And it's now a safe state for Donald Trump. So if this is the case, Trump might win in a landslide on Election Day. I'm not saying he will. But if these polls were to be right, even if Biden wins Wisconsin, he may win it, even though, in my opinion, he's not going to. That's still not good when he's losing Pennsylvania, losing Arizona, losing Michigan, losing Georgia, and Nevada. That's not good. By 13 points is not good. Biden's down by 13. He's down by 10. He's down by 7. He's down by 7 again. He's down by 3. And he's only up by 2 in Wisconsin, which it underestimated Trump's support by 6 points back in 2020. So theoretically, Trump is going to win Wisconsin by a tilt-to-lean margin in 2024. 312 electoral votes to Joe Biden's 226. So let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Do you agree with these new polls from Siena College and the New York Times? Or do you disagree with them, and why, in the comment section down below? In my opinion, I would have to disagree with the margins and also some of the winners. For example, I do not think Wisconsin's going to go to Biden. And also, I think Biden may actually win Pennsylvania. So I would flip those. So I think Trump gets 292 electoral votes. I think Biden wins Pennsylvania, but Trump wins Wisconsin, Michigan. So this is my map. Trump gets 293, actually. And don't forget to subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss out on any of my content. And also, we have memberships, so you can find the link to that in the description section. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And what do you think on the new latest released polls? Thank you, everyone, for watching.